don't know what her name was before that, but
Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and my guest today is someone that I understand a lot of you hope to see on my program again from conversations I've had with people. Her name is Cara Seekings. Thank you for coming on, Cara.
it's my pleasure to be here, Gail. We all know what a ham I am, so
What a ham I! You sound like a Dr. Seuss book.
forget the green eggs, Gail. No green eggs.
Okay. Our topic of the day is color coherence alignment. Tell our viewing audience what color coherence alignment is, Cara.
It's a very fancy term, really, for utilizing your own heart's energy to bring you into coherence, into an equilibrium that allows you to function at your peak function. We all know, Gail, that most of us don't do stress well. I mean, you know, I kid about this, but I could probably eat my weight in chocolate in high stress situations. Many of us use coping mechanisms that are not healthy or are not positive, or we kick the refrigerator and scream at the cat, instead of looking at how we react. You can't change the events that happen to you. You can only change your reaction to them. So color coherence uses a technique of biofeedback, which is using the colored screen. I teach you, and I'm going to teach you today, the program of breathing, etc., that brings your heart rhythm, now not your heart rate, but your heart rhythm into a more smooth flow, less jaggediness, less, and you wear this while we're doing it so that you can see it yourself. As I say, it's a biofeedback tool and one that provides you instant biofeedback. The whole program itself evolves around, actually you come in and you pick a card. I have found that most people intuitively will pick the correct card they need. Now, what the card does is a cue for me, a color card. And then we work from the basis of the chakras, as you mentioned before we started today, that you were very familiar with the fact green is the color of the heart chakra. So we pick as we need, I believe. And based on that, I do a program with you where I teach everybody the same heart math facilitation. I became certified this year because I believe it's such an important concept. We teach you that, then you move from that to, while you're wearing the feedback things, to hearing music, sounds. You're surrounded, it's called alignment because you're surrounded by color visually. I actually use a program from Whole Tones Chroma. And I think I probably mentioned to you before on your show that I am a certified color therapist as well. And so I use color to help you bring into coherence your psyche, soma, soul.
Tell me, do your favorite, what does a person's favorite colors tell you about them?
Generally, people will pick where their need is most. When we talk about chakras, of course, we're talking about the 7 energy centers through the body. There are chakras outside the body, but I'm a nurse, I'm a body worker. So we're talking about crown, which is your attachment to the divine, however you define the divine. Your third eye, which is your insight. We're all familiar with that gut feeling, and we know when we don't follow it up, things are not good.
Oh, trust me, I made some dillies of mistakes especially when I was young, because of not listening to that.
Not hearing that voice.
And they were things that were profoundly important decisions for me to make too.
Life affectors. We sometimes forget the fact that even little decisions are life affectors. Now, I would tell you that for many years when I was young, I was the queen of not making a decision, which of course is in fact making a decision. Now, back to the chakras though for a minute, because this is a Sanskrit word, Chakra.
Right.
It's a word that means whirling ball of energy. Come down here to the throat. This is the throat chakra. This is the chakra that allows us to be brave enough to speak our truth, to be courageous enough to identify what matters to us. Heart chakra, source of all love, any kind. Solar plexus, this is your power chakra here at your waist. It's your balance. I will often see people who pick that card, that yellow card, because most of us have lives full of stuff. We are always wanting to be of help. We are wanting to fix, and nurses are great wanting to fixers. We're wanting to make things better. We're wanting to not disappoint, but we forget in this that this is our power source. So if we're so busy doing out here, what happens to us? I actually teach a class that talks about self and not selfish.
Oh, right.
I tell people often, selfish means I love me enough to take good care of me, so I have something left for you. And as we move down from that, then the sacral chakra, which people tend to think of, it's bright orange, they tend to think of just sexuality or procreation. But in fact, all creativity begins in that chakra. And then the base chakra is at the end of the spine. It's called the root, and it's our grounding to Mother Gaia or Mother Earth. It's that thing that I say makes us like an oak tree. We have some flexibility, but we don't break at the trunk, so that we are able to keep going forward. When we do color coherence alignment, it's generally because while we look at those chakras, or I will look at those chakras, I will see that perhaps one isn't the clear color it should be, or one is going like a crazy chakra. I mean, it's just way out of, as the chakras rise, they go more quickly. So I certainly shouldn't see your solar plexus going faster than your crown. If I were to see that, I would not be surprised if you picked the yellow chakra. People most often pick the green chakra.
Really?
Yes.
That is amazing.
Yes.
That is amazing.
I think that as a people, we're becoming more aware that we have the power to change how we react. I don't have the power to change what Gail does. And certainly Gail doesn't have the power to change what Cara does, but in between there, I can change my reaction. For many years, I kid about being a good Celtic child, Irish and Scotch, but I have a very short fuse, and for years that fuse would react. Now, you know, Gail, as well as I do, that moments of that don't change a thing. They certainly don't make us feel better.
Oh, they make us feel worse.
Well, and usually I have to apologize.
Well, you know, I can remember getting so angry with somebody. I would scream at the person, and I would feel that anger right in my chest. It was like, and it would feel hot. Really, really hot.
Someone else said to me, felt like a porcupine in there.
You know, and one day I said to myself, this was after I'd been practicing yoga for a while and stuff like that, and I said to myself, you know, it's probably really bad for my health to feel this way. So.
Well, and that's another thing I try in color coherence to say to people, it's okay to be angry. I mean, our feelings are real. And to deny your own feelings personally gives me a hollow in the pit of my stomach, if that's the case. But it's how we channel those feelings. The minute I hear my voice rise, I know I should shut up because I've already lost rationale. I'm now into emitting, emoting, and those things don't change a thing except to raise my stress and anxiety levels. I'm known now to be the person who would say to you, if we were in a disagreement, two things. We can always agree to disagree, and we can talk more about this later. Because as I hear my voice rise, I know I'm done. I know I have quit thinking and just started feeling and emoting. So color coherence helps us stop that. And it's really a really simple technique, Gail. We want you to use the heart energy positively, not only for yourself, but for the world. But before we can send it out to the world, we have to send it in. So what I do, there's, as in yoga where there are positions, the only position I ask people to take is I ask them to put their hands open in supplication. Because I like them to feel these are receiving as well as the heart. Mostly when people teach you about breathing, there's a whole lot of rules and they'll be telling you hand motions and this and that. That's not me. I would say to you, it's great if you can breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, but if you're not that kind of breather, that's all right. I want you to take slow, normal kinds of breaths. Don't deep breathe, don't hyperventilate, just in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Now, I won't keep cadence for you because you're perfectly capable to do that. But at that point, you would have picked your card, and I would have said to you, okay, Gail, I want you, don't worry about quieting your mind. Most of us have monkey head, it doesn't matter. Hands in supplication, I want you to keep up that normal breathing, and I want you to center your focus here in your heart. Bring your focus to the heart. Feel the energy opening there. Feel it able to receive. Use that feeling to continue breathing in and out, in and out. And once we've done that a few minutes, then of course I will have added color and sound. But at which point I will say to you, now, Gail, I want you to bring to your heart a feeling of gratitude or compassion. I won't tell you on what. Most of us have lots of gratitudes. We just don't sort them out sometimes. And compassion is much harder because sometimes when we look at our fellow human, we think, what are you doing? But that's the place where we need compassion. We need not to make that judgment. So bring in a feeling, we call it regeneration of gratitude. Bring it into that heart chakra, let it grow, let it expand. This is the time when heart chakra is dominant. So just let it expand in there. Keep that gratitude flowing and going and flowing and going, and in and out and in and out. Once you can comfortably hold that feeling, and normally a session lasts between 15 minutes and a half hour, but once you can hold that feeling, then I ask you to take that feeling, whatever the compassion or gratitude was, and send it out. We teach our kids to send it out in an energy ball, but with adults I say, I want you to put it out there. Put it out there in the world. When you look at someone after a session, I want you to look at them with that same gratitude and compassion. Years ago, Gail, a friend of mine, Joe Scheel, who many folks in Chautauqua County know, Joe said to me, we're all broken. Most of us just don't show the places. And I think that's absolutely true, and I think we tend to, as people, to quick judge. Mostly we're wrong. But that doesn't matter because we formed that opinion. And those opinions are really hard to get rid of. So when someone drives me crazy on the street, you're stopped in traffic, and the person in front of you is obviously not paying attention because the light is green. Sometimes it's all I can do not to get out of the car, knock on their window and say, what color green are we waiting for? Now, I would probably get the car door slammed in my face, open. Instead of that, I will sit for that moment and give thanks for the fact I get a moment to breathe in and out, to look with compassionate eyes, to not form a judgment. For me, that's one of the greatest stress reducers in the world. If I leave my opinion out of it, it's amazing how good things are. So that's color coherence. It's not terribly mysterious. It's the use of color and sound and healing tones. Each chakra has its own musical tone. And Whole Tones does a beautiful job with it, and they have great color visualizations. And actually, when I looked out the window here, one of the pictures from Whole Tones is very similar to that view out the window.
Really?
Yes. It's beautiful floral. Now, I never get this rhododendron.
Rhododendrons.
Okay, rhododendron.
Right.
And it's much the same color as that one. The only change in their picture is they have a hydrangea blooming on the bottom of that one. Of their picture.
Okay.
And it's like, I'm sure it's a Photoshop picture because it's at that time of the year when hydrangeas are beginning to change color. And that doesn't strike me as to be the same bloom time. But, so those kind of things, we tend to, in our daily life, Gail, get so caught up in the, first of all, in other people's business, which is never anything but stressful.
There's a lot of that. That's a lot about like the kind of stuff I hear on National Public Radio all the time in the news about how people have their noses into other people's business.
And if you're tending to your own, you really don't have time to do that. And one of my questions to myself before I stick my hoof into something is, will I have direct impact? If not, this doesn't belong to me. I kid my daughter-in-laws, I do not offer advice. They know I have things to say, and if they want it, they'll ask. I have always felt that way about my friends. Just because I think what I know is best, and as a nurse, I have long said, actually when I was at hospice, we did a campaign where we wore these buttons that said, it's not about me. Mostly we look at our lives, and color coherence helps us function at that point where we're able to take a step back and say, wait a minute, this is not mine. One of the hardest things for us is to keep what is mine and give you back what is thine. We want to have the answers. We want to do, it's the old joke, Gail, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times. I used to think I knew all the answers. The older I get, I don't even know the questions. And that's the kind of thing, color coherence. Take a minute, bring it down. Obviously, I also teach meditation, but I bring it down, The Quakers call it centering. Now they center down here. I ask my folks to center here.
Oh, okay.
But it's the same general tool. It's a way to help you and me cope with those things in life that make us the most nuts. And it's usually not, if you have a major crisis, I always say, I gather my skirts and we rally right around and get to it.
People tend to be at their best when things are worse.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. And then, but it's those small things that mount up and mount up and mount up until, one of the things I will say to people in the evening who have gone through color coherence, I will suggest they buy a taper or a votive or whatever candle they'd like in that color. And last thing at night, to sit down, light the candle, keep your eyes open, watch the dancers in the flames, and give it over to whatever your belief system is. Give it over. Because there's probably nothing you can do about most of it. And when we do that coulda, shoulda, woulda stuff, whenever I start that, I remind myself, if you feel crazy, it's because you're responsible for it. We do that. We look at, we second guess, we third guess all the time, all the time, all the time. Until it's amazing to me we're not walking around like blubbering nitwits. If I sat down and calculated how much of my stress was self-created, you probably wouldn't be real happy. I don't even want to give you a percentage because it'd be so high that they'd be calling the ambulance. But we do that. We do that because we live to someone else's script regularly. Instead of identifying, I just had a conversation with someone who was telling me about all the things they have done to find peace for themselves. I admire that. But before you begin all that work to find self-peace, maybe you need to find self. If you can find a comfortable place for you that you're good with, many of those things just rinse off your back. They just wipe away. The other thing I often will mention to people, half of what we worry about never happens.
Right.
And the other half, we have absolutely no control over. Love the spring allergies. We have absolutely no control over that other half. So by learning things like color coherence, and that's just the name I like, heart math facilitation, it's such an easy technique. And it's math, M-A-T-H. This is called an inner balance trainer. You can go online and look them up. It allows us a chance. For me, it's a control issue, very honestly. I used to think I had to control everything. Now I realize I only have one thing to control. Here she is. It's me. It's me I have to have control of. So that's kind of color coherence in a nutshell. Does it benefit everybody? Absolutely. I had a conversation with someone about how could I say that, because their father had dementia and wouldn't be able to do this. I said, I don't think that's so. And they said, what do you mean? I said, why not let me stop by in Dad's comfortable environment and see if we can teach him a little of this. She said, he can't be taught anything. I said, please don't assume that. I'm looking to teach him right now in this moment. If he doesn't remember it in a week, I can come back or you can redo it with him. This is a chance for him to, once a day, feel like some control is back. And he was attentive. Would I tell you he was fabulous at it? No, but he doesn't need to be, because he was attentive. He was able to hold his hands open. And I could see the deliberateness of his breathing. Now that suggests to me you're working on it. So I was thrilled. I don't know anybody who doesn't find value in it. Bringing together psyche, soma, soul. You know, we all go to the doctor, and doctors fortunately are getting much, much better about treating the whole person. But for many years in medicine, we were the appendix or whatever. We're not that anymore. We know that it's all three things. You cannot do mind without body and soul, body without mind and soul without body and mind, because it's all the same being. And how's that for a lecture?
Pretty interesting. Yeah. Now, you were going to hook me up to something, but now you said that you're not going to be able to?
No, because I can't get on your Wi-Fi here. So, but yes, this is the whole system. It hooks in up here. It hooks in
on an earlobe.
On an earlobe, you would have to take off your earring. And then this just hooks here on your shirt. And this goes to my phone. Or a computer screen or whatever I choose. And then we're able to look at that diagram and watch it to see when you're blue breathing, you're breathing what I call normally. When you're red breathing, you're breathing uptight, stressfully. And as you start into the green, you then start into coherence. And the little dial on here encourages and coaches you. It will say, great job, you're in the green. And you can also watch on the same screen your heart rhythm. And you can see the change from wildly chaotic to much smoother to, is it a miracle? No. It's you working on you. And that's something we deny ourselves all the time. There's always 14 other things going on in our lives, or, you know, I really need to work on this or do that. I'm a quilter, and last night when I sat down, I thought, well, I'll just sew a little bit. And then I realized how, for me, quilting is very meditative.
Oh, yeah.
So I made most of a baby quilt, or a top, just because I needed to back away from life. And that's part of what color coherence is about. I say it's my excuse to back away, but it's really my excuse to manage me. Not that any of us need an excuse, Gail, but in today's society, heaven forbid if you're sitting doing nothing because you're immediately suspect.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, some people are such workaholics. They think there's something wrong with just sitting down and relaxing for a while. Yeah.
There's nothing I like better to go out, and you know I live in Lilydale, to go out in the old growth forest there and just sit and let the trees and the breeze and the whatever.
Yeah, there is something about being out in nature like that, out in the woods. It's just, I don't know, it just makes you feel really good and really happy, and
it's that connection to Mother Earth.
It's blissed out, probably is the best word to describe it.
I will often suggest to people who have a lot of things on their plate, it tends mostly to affect the root chakra. And that's what keeps us grounded, as I say. So I will often say to those folks, you know what? I want you to go out in your yard. If you garden, of course, then I really like you to go out and play in your garden. But if not, if you're someone who can still get down on the ground and get back up, I want you to sit down on the ground, make your feet bare, and sit there. If you're not, then I'd like you to take your lawn chair, make your feet bare, put your feet on the ground. And again, of course, I'm very fond of this hands in supplication. This says, I will take whatever good stuff you have and something better if that's coming next. Okay. So that allows us, it also for me allows me to realize that I am receptive. I am responsive to the energy which I keep. You know, I sometimes will, again, I try not to ever give advice because I know that it's not a good idea. But I will say to someone, you know, if you don't like the energy with which you're living, you're the person responsible to change it. Whether it's a major change or a minor change or a succession of small changes, it's up to you to do them. You can see a therapist, you can go to yoga, you can go to, I do seated Tai Chi because my days of getting down aren't the problem, but getting back up, it's a whole nother issue. So I do a seated Tai Chi program just because I need the discipline and the focus of stepping out of the ego that is Cara Seekings into the sentient being that is Cara Seekings.
Yeah. I wanted to mention the yellow color that you were talking about in relation to the solar plexus. A lot of people, especially people who experience stress a lot, tend to develop digestive problems.
Absolutely. It is the probably most common thing people seek my herb shop for, who are looking for natural digestive aids. And it is about giving away your power, not maintaining your balance, not caring for self. Sometimes we don't go as far as ulcerations, but we do go as far as heartburn up to here, or rolling stomach, or other less pleasant digestive issues. And that's because we are holding it right here, Gail. We are holding it right here. And sometimes we get so used to holding it and to giving away our power that we almost treasure it because it's become such a norm. Sometimes we just feel so frustrated and overwhelmed that we don't see our way out of that. That's, of course, where meditation comes in. And, you know, you have to know that I define yoga as a meditative.
Oh, yes.
You know,
yes.
Yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, any of those meditative kinds of deliberate movement, being focused and being mindful. When we give away here, mindfulness is impossible because we're so busy trying to sustain enough energy to be able to pass it out. These chakras are really, really energetic centers, but like anything else, they need fuel. And it isn't food fuel. It's emotional balance fuel. It's balance in our lives fuel. People who go to yoga know the art of balance. They may not be fabulous at it. Certainly at Tai Chi, I wouldn't want to be telling you I'm anything but he was going out and teach a class. But I have to bring it right down into the movement. I have to not be dancing around in my head about 50,000 other things like, you know, did I give the dog her medicine or whatever. I have to be right here, right now, and pay attention. And that's the other thing color coherence does. You have to be right here, right now, paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read books on, I read a book, I should say, on color and how color, affects people. Different colors affect different people. Now, I remember I remember having a really bad day one time. I mean, it was like late March or early April or something like that this particular year. And I was experiencing a lot of anxiety anyways, and then one of my aunts died. And I remember going to the funeral, and it was like, you know, it was just one of those days where I just couldn't seem to feel relaxed or anything. And so anyway, we went to this, we went to the funeral, and then afterwards, you know how families and friends usually get together for a meal afterwards. And I remember walking into the room, and it was all decorated. The room that we were going to eat at, the tables all had lavender tablecloths on them. It was just decorated with lavender. And I remember walking into that room with the lavender color. I relaxed. I mean, it was incredible. It was like something magical happened when I walked into that room, and I'm assuming it had to do with all of the lavender.
Absolutely.
So,
we see color, and although I'm looking at you and I see blue, okay. Do you mind if I tell you what that tells me in color therapy language?
no, you can tell me.
Okay. Yeah, it's someone who is comfortable to wear multiple shades of blue, which you have between your shirt and your t-shirt, okay, or whatever you have under there,
Yeah.
is someone who is quite likely to be a thinker, a contemplator, but is someone with the multiple shades who can adjust.
Oh, okay.
Think of that as your lake and the multiple shades as the waves. So that's a blue presentation, but also because you have two really dark pockets.
Oh, yes. Dark,
Okay.
They're like navy blue, the packets.
Right.
Are, yeah.
Those are, you keep things, I could tell you a secret or ask for your confidentiality, and it wouldn't be a problem because you have well-protected pockets over the heart chakra.
Oh.
Okay?
Oh. Okay.
That would be significant to me. Now, I never do that, Gail, without permission, okay? Because I wouldn't be that invasive. But it does sometimes cue me to how I might best approach that person for the friendliest, warmest, and most likely to accomplish interaction. When we are really angry, we talk about seeing red,
Oh, yeah.
because that's where we're at. But now red itself as a color is a power color. It's really not about anger. For many years, though, particularly women who wore red were considered, of course, less than ladies, or were considered really strong women,
Oh.
which can be frightening to others sometimes.
Oh.
I would never want to say I'm intimidating, at least not intentionally. But, you know, I'm fairly tall, and I'm a woman of size, and I tend to be all over, so that can be quite intimidating. I am more likely to wear, I'm a black person, as
Oh.
far as color.
Okay.
Only because from an old friend of mine years ago who was really short of money, she only bought clothes that were navy blue, cranberry, or camel, because then she could mix and match all the pieces.
Okay.
And she was always beautifully turned out, okay? I will never be beautifully turned out, but my hope is that by wearing black something, I can mix and match other things with it.
Oh, sure.
So, but again, I'm quite given to the jubilant, the expressive. We never have to worry about what I think, because I'm happy to put it right out here. You know, And I dress that way. We tend to dress our colorway. Would it surprise me if you chose blue when you came in to pick a card? No, because you're a communicator.
Oh, okay.
You're a communicator.
Well,
You're,
I sort of have to be with the Fresh Perspectives television program.
absolutely, but in your life as well. You're a
Uh-huh.
communicator. You know, you're one of these responsible folks who do things with the Vegan and Vegetarian Society because you want to give out your knowledge. You want to share.
Yeah, I like to educate people about things that will benefit them. Yes.
And there's my friend in wearing her blue. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. I am more likely, if I am to choose a card, I am one of the green people. Because I believe so strongly that everyone deserves an opportunity, I really am I'm working very hard continually to be an anti-judgment person. I don't mind using color to tell you what I see, but I don't want to judge someone else's behavior or, you know, we waste more time and I wonder why they did that. Okay, except what difference does it make? And a number of times when I'm feeling the most aggravated, I take a step back and think, exactly why am I wasting this energy?
Yeah.
Because nothing is coming from it. And
No.
people say, well, I feel better. No, that's not really true. If you're in traffic and you're screaming at 3 other people in traffic, you're not feeling better. Your blood pressure goes up, your pulse races, your whole attitude is stinky. You know, you don't feel better.
You know, another thing that I've noticed about a lot of people is they will talk about and complain about their problems pretty much constantly, and they'll say things like support groups really help me a lot. But then why are they still worrying and complaining about the things if the support group is helpful to them?
Yes.
It's almost more like they're talking about these things to get attention for themselves or people to feel sympathetic towards them rather than talking about it to unload it, you know, and get rid of it, you know. And it's not a good way if you want people to be friends with you and like you, because they'll stop hanging around with you because it doesn't feel good to be around you because all you ever do is complain.
Whine and complain.
Yeah.
Whine and complain without any cheese. There are many folks who, as I say, enjoy ill health. Whether it be physical ill health, emotional ill health, or spiritual ill health. They enjoy whining and complaining nonstop. I'm not given to listening to that, obviously. I'm likely to say, and what are you doing to change it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I know that's kind of confrontational. Most nice people aren't quite that confrontational, but nobody would ever accuse me of nice.
Right, right.
Because if you're really unhappy, again, I'm one of those people who believe in personal responsibility. You don't owe me changes. I owe me changes. If something is making me unhappy, if I have a stone in my shoe,
Sit down and take the shoe
take
off.
the shoe off.
And dump the stone out of it.
Quit whining
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
And I find that is one of the things as I find as I age. I have many friends who I love dearly, but I'm most attracted to the friends who take their life in both hands and who say, I'm going forward. Maybe they've made terrible mistakes. Maybe they've experienced terrible things. But that was in the past. AA says yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, one day at a time. And I think that when I hear someone whining and complaining, generally, they're looking back over the last 15 years or whatever, and every, I call it gunny sacking, every little imaginary thing is hanging in a gunny sack off your back.
Oh, yeah.
And that shoulder gets lower and lower and lower, and this is not balanced.
Well, I think I've heard that a lot of times thinking negatively can be the reason you're experiencing aches and pains in your body.
Patricia Price, who is a good friend of mine and a neighbor, says thoughts are things. If you put it out there and then you're surprised, there's a little piece of me that wants to say, let's just say you're someone given to always coming back with a sarcastic comment. And when you get one back, your jaw kind of drops. Really. You know, that's what you put out there. I frequently will say to people, you want to live poverty? Act like your life is poor. You want to live abundance? Open your arms and welcome in this or something better. We never have to be afraid to ask. Again, whatever your spiritual beliefs are, you never have to be afraid to ask. But then we all remember that Spirit, God, whatever word you use, does tend to help those who put forth some action to help themselves. So that kind of thing, I will look at people and think, when you put the negative out there, it blossoms, just as the flowers on the plant. Now, reverse that. Because when you put the positive out there, it blossoms, just like the flowers on the plant. And personally, I'd a lot rather be surrounded by blooms than thorns.
Right, right. Although roses are very beautiful and they have thorns.
They do.
And certain kinds of berries grow on thorny
raspberries,
bushes.
blackberries, they all.
Yeah, and I love all of those things.
But life does not come without thorns.
Right.
If we go through our lives expecting only fabulous things and not taking any action, probably there are going to be bare branches or thorny bare branches. Most of us don't mind a little finger prick now and then to reap the rewards. But we don't look at that. We don't, when we're putting negative stuff out, we can't look at that because we're too busy being egocentric. I will often say to people, one of the first things we as sentient beings need to do, one of the tasks of maturity, is to learn to get out of your own way. We need to operate not from ego, because when we operate from ego, then it becomes all about me. And although I would tell you 95% of the time I know what is best for me, there's that other piece of time where I need to experience the world. I need to have input. I need to have sensory things going on. I need to have decision-making happening by me. But of course, that only happens after we collect data, and at least hopefully it only happens then. So when we do those kinds of things, when we put, nothing good ever happens in my life, sometimes if those of you who are Facebook people, sometimes on Facebook, I would just like to say, did you read this before you hit send? Because there is so much negativity in it. This is wrong and that is wrong, and nobody ever treats me decently.
Why would you want anybody out there to know that you think like that?
I always wonder that myself, is exactly what do you think of yourself? when you are broadcasting these kind of things to who knows who,
Right.
about yourself.
Right.
Why would you do that? I mean, I'm not suggesting people live false lives. I mean, certainly none of us are perfect. But that, again, is part of the process of maturation. I like to call them experiences and not life's lessons, because somehow life lessons seems punitive. But thinking about experiences that I've had, I have benefited from everyone, no matter whether they were really good experiences or less than fabulous ones. I have taken benefit away.
Yeah, at least when you've made mistakes, at least you've learned something. You can see why you caused yourself to have those certain problems.
And as people, we have a hard time sometimes with that, Gail, very honestly. When I hear someone saying, it's all my job's fault. It's all my brother-in-law's fault. My kids make me nuts. No, you make you nuts. Your job may not be perfect. I would have lied to make $400,000 a year. Let me tell you, that never happened in my career. But
Yeah.
it wasn't my job's fault by any means. I had great jobs, but I worked to see that they were great jobs. I did my best. That somebody who used to work with me many years ago said, you're a great boss as long as I do my job. I said, for me, that's the magic key. As long as you do your job.
Well, some people, for example, I've known of people who quit school when they were in like 16 or 17 years old before they graduated because they weren't compatible with either some of the other students or some of their teachers or whatever, But what it really comes down to, it doesn't matter. You're going to find out when you get into the adult world that there's probably always going to be somebody that you don't feel compatible with wherever you work or whatever church you go to or organizations you're involved in or clubs or neighborhoods or whatever. There's always going to be somebody who probably will annoy you at least a little bit.
At least once.
Yeah. So, you just have to get to the idea through your head that, that you're just going to have to get used to the idea of being around people that you're not compatible with.
Well, and my mom used to have a saying when we were children, and she would say, you don't have to like everybody, but you must treat them with the same courtesy you would a stranger. I've always had people at work who were not my social friends. I didn't choose my job based on a need for social friends, nor vice versa.
Right. Well, actually, usually you apply for jobs that you feel qualified for.
And that might bring some enjoyment.
And that can earn you a living. Basically, you're not really looking for a job because you're hoping you're going to make friends.
No, if you're looking for a social network, you need to do that socially. I over my career, I made it a point mostly not to socialize because I have friends and people I care about outside my employment.
Right.
But I've never felt at any job that I couldn't shut my mouth and do my job. Even though someone might make me feel, grumble, grumble, grumble.
Well, sometimes they deliberately try to get you riled up.
You know, and when
I'm not sure why people enjoy doing that to each other, but
it's them.
is it?
It's their, when someone makes an unkind remark or makes you the bunt of ridicule or whatever, sarcasm, it is their problem.
Mm-hmm.
It is not yours. Don Miguel Ruiz reminds us in his book, The Four Agreements, do not take anything personally.
Right. My metaphysics teacher said something like that too. If people treat you, if they're rude towards you and treat you badly, it tells you more. What it tells you is it's the way they treat themselves. It's a reflection of the way they treat themselves.
It tells you exactly who they are. Mm-hmm. And I will sometimes think, we've all met the person who we think, thank you, thank you, thank you, I am not this person. I wish things could change for that person, but my wishing doesn't change it.
No.
And
no.
their attitude is likely to never change. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. At least not by me, mm-hmm. which is okay. It's okay. Mm-hmm. But again, I remind myself, this is their problem. I don't have to own it, I don't have to take it on, and I certainly do not have to believe it. When we talk to ourselves and we talk less than kindly, I always think it's too bad we don't have a little miniature buzzer in our shoe. Mm-hmm. So that when we do unkind about ourselves, mm-hmm. the buzzer goes off.
Well, I remember when I was a little girl, I used to believe things that people told me about myself. And looking back on it now, I realize none of it was true. Not one bit of it.
No, and even now I will often find when someone is particularly critical of you or your behavior, first of all, it's not up to them to do that, mm-hmm. but people mm-hmm. do it all the time. I will, if I'm really stung by it, and I have been, I will sit down and say to myself, what if that really applies to me? And as children, of course, we don't have that luxury because we are children and we're reacting. But now as an adult, what if that really applies to me? I don't have to believe their opinion. Mm-hmm. I can respect the fact they have a right to have it and certainly freely express it. But I don't have to buy into it. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing for many of us.
Right,
you know,
right.
Someone asked me once if I went to poise school or something, and I said, excuse me? I mean, you know, come on, Gail. I said, excuse me? And they said, well, you always seem so laid back. Mm-hmm. And I say it's because I know that I'm responsible for me. Mm-hmm. I can choose to get on my horse and ride in 4 directions, but then I'm on my horse riding in 4 directions and mm-hmm. nothing good happens mm-hmm. from that.
Right.
Or I can make a more positive choice where I actually look at what was said. I don't replay conversations because you can't change them. I don't do the I wish I'd have said kind of stuff. But I do if my feelings are hurt or if I'm feeling angry. I like to look at what really applies to me in this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What really belongs to me.
Well, Cara, guess what?
Our time is up, and I love being here, Gail.
You know, our time is up, unfortunately, because this has been a really interesting conversation. I thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
I'll have to get you signed up for another time slot.
Would love it.
And I'll see the rest of you in the viewing audience in a couple weeks on the next episode.
Thank you.
You're welcome.